My name's Matt Duff. I'm a private investigator, and I've been working on a capital murder case that's about to come to a head.
On February 28th of this year, Texas has scheduled the execution of Ivan Cantu.
Ivan has maintained his innocence since his arrest in 2000, and for a capital murder case with an upcoming execution, there are a lot of unanswered questions and problems with this conviction.
To hear the state's case, please refer to the longer case summary video. This abbreviated medium-length video will jump right into the major issues with the conviction.
When you look at the state's case, basically, you're looking at Amy Betcher's testimony, and you're looking at the physical evidence which the state argued linked him to the murder and corroborated Amy's testimony. If you are willing to acknowledge, first, the probability that Amy lied for whatever reason, and second, the possibility that the evidence might have been planted, then there's nothing else. You're not left with anything. When you look more closely and you see the problems with Amy Betcher's testimony that weren't vetted at trial at all, you see the evidence that supports an argument that a lot of this evidence found and purportedly linking Ivan to the offense, the very real possibility that, there was at least an opportunity for other people to have planted that evidence in an attempt to frame Ivan. There was just a lot that the jury didn't hear.
Since 2020, I've been laying out my investigation episodically on a podcast entitled Cousins by Blood. So first, is there evidence that Amy lied? Yes, there is. Amy stated that Ivan came back bloody with items belonging to James and Amy Kitchen, one of those being James' Rolex. And in her statements and on the witness stand at trial, she testified that Ivan threw that Rolex out of James' Corvette window as they were going down the tollway. Well, that wasn't just any Rolex James had and Ivan allegedly stole. That was a family heirloom. It once belonged to James and Ivan's uncle, Uncle Lico. Here he is pictured with his family. Engraved on the back of the Rolex was Lico's name, Love his wife Carol. Well, early on in my investigation, I discovered that although this Rolex was reported missing by the family, that a few weeks after that report was made, that the family actually found the Rolex. It was actually tucked away in the house. Ivan did not steal that Rolex, but because it was originally reported missing,
it looks like the state told her what to say. They fed her information that, as it turns out, was incorrect, and told her what to say. I mean, obviously, that Rolex watch, she never saw that Rolex watch. Obviously. She never saw Ivan throw it out the car from the tollway. But that's what she testified to. That was demonstrably false.
See, most of the evidence Amy said Ivan had that tied him to the crime, she also said that he threw it away in multiple dumpsters or threw it out the car window. For most, there was no hard evidence. It was just her testimony. She also testified that Ivan threw away her boots because they were connected to the crime scene. But here again, like the Rolex, Ivan did not throw them away. They were later recovered from the vehicle they drove to Arkansas, but the jury never heard that. Amy's testimony is riddled with perjury.
The state relied on Amy Betcher's testimony to make their case, and the state's second star witness was her brother, Jeff Betcher. Jeff gave some of the most damning testimony of all. Jeff was the only witness that testified Ivan was actually planning the murders. Jeff testified that Ivan wanted Jeff to do cleanup after the murders. Jeff testified he saw Ivan with the murder weapon every day. But you see, I've worked on this case for years, talked to probably 100 people that knew Ivan. No one else said they'd ever seen Ivan with a gun. So seemingly there's only 2 people in the world that have ever seen Ivan with a gun. Jeff and Amy Betcher. How is that possible? In 2022, we found out. Jeff came forward.
Do you recall testifying about anything about Ivan having a gun?
No.
Do you remember anything about Ivan having a gun?
No.
Do you remember the testifying about a conversation about him asking you to be the cleanup man?
No.
Do you remember not testifying about it, but that even happening, him asking you about being the
I
cleanup
don't
man?
believe so. Yeah, he never asked me. I lied.
Amy and Jeff Betcher, the state's star witnesses, both told lie after lie on the witness stand that led to Ivan's conviction and his upcoming execution date. That's just the state's witnesses. Let's look at some of the other state's evidence. The bloody jeans and socks that Amy said Ivan was wearing after the murders, and put them in the kitchen trash can.
Post-conviction DNA testing on the jeans and socks determined
all these items, the socks and the jeans that supposedly he wore, and there's really nothing. There isn't conclusive results that say yes, I'm definitely sure that Ivan was wearing this. I'm not sure if anybody was wearing them or for any extended period of time.
I'm very disturbed by that because it makes me feel like you don't know, so they can't tell you who wore the socks. Wow. They can't tell you who wore the jeans. With all this technology you've got, you couldn't show anything that showed that Cantu for 100%.
And let's look at something else forensically, the victim's rigor mortis. Amy Betcher's story is that Ivan committed the murders around midnight. According to the medical examiner's report, when the bodies were found later in the day on November 4th, rigor mortis had not fully set in Amy's body. I interviewed 2 forensic pathologists about that, and they both said,
it seems like hours after the reported what was that, the 11:30 to 12:15 window.
Is it possible Amy Kitchen was murdered at midnight?
I don't think it is.
If Ivan said he said last saw her alive at 6 o'clock that morning, I would buy it. I'm not buying that they were dead the night before at 10 p.m. No, not with the rigor setting it in the jaw. She should be in full rigor if she died the night before.
I'm a private investigator hosting a podcast, and I interviewed 2 pathology experts. Let's hear all the experts the defense utilized in Ivan's capital murder trial. But first, the other side.
The state used, in this case, a DNA expert, a ballistics expert, a blood spatter expert, medical examiner, fingerprint expert. The defense requested not a single expert to attempt to combat the state's case in chief.
And not only did the defense not bring on and call their own expert witnesses, the defense did not call any witnesses during the guilt and innocence phase of Ivan's trial. 0 witnesses. On trial for his life, Ivan's attorneys did not put up any defense.
Ivan is scheduled to be executed on February 28th, and in this case, the state's time of death is way off. There were items that Ivan was said to have stolen and thrown away that later turned up. Of the evidence that was left behind, the state cannot find Ivan's DNA on the clothing he supposedly wore, and the state's star witnesses presented material testimony that turns out to be completely fraudulent.
This is all documented. It's horrifying that someone can be put to death when there are all these problems with their conviction. So I ask you,
if Ivan Cantu is executed on February 28th, is that justice?
There's still time to stop it.